I'm ready to go.
You good? Okay, I figured as much. It's great to meet you. Thank you for taking a minute out today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You bet. So before we get into your wizardry and your life and your success, I want to know first and foremost, how did surviving the pandemic become a ripple effect into what you do right now? And how did you get through that time period?
Wow, what a great question. We launched our company in November of 2019.
Wow.
And so we work with online marketers. And in March, we were definitely pretty worried about what was going to happen to this baby of a company. And honestly, we just exploded. Everybody needed help moving to online. Everybody needed help with card not present merchant accounts, which is my business partner's specialty. And so people needed help with sourcing and inventory and customer service and all of those things. And those are my specialties. And so we were really able to come in and help businesses expand instead of scale back.
Yeah.
And we just, for us, we just, it was, I mean, I hate to say that the pandemic was a blessing, but it certainly helped our business move in a very quick pace direction of scale.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of a fortunate situation to be in because
Yeah.
that everything blew up then. It's kind of
It
like
didn't feel fortunate. It didn't feel fortunate at the
no,
time.
nothing felt fortunate at the time.
Right.
I mean, and I even think about Zoom now. I mean, no one knew about Zoom before this happened, and then
Right.
all of a sudden, it's this big thing that's going on, and everybody's using it.
Yeah.
Um, so let me ask you this. I know you're the Wizard of Ops. I know there's a lot that goes into what you do on a regular basis, but if we had to boil this down to something that would be digestible and understandable to a younger audience, I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders at career day. One of the kids is curious in the back of the room and is like, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer them?
Sure. Operations is not a department. It's the thing that is the day to day of your business to deliver what you're selling, whether it be a product or a service to your customer. It's the strategic think through of how we get from sale to delivery in an effective, efficient, profitable way that is also good for a customer experience. That's how I would boil it down. Hopefully, a third grader would understand that.
I think they probably would. They're a little bit more savvy, I think, these days.
Yeah, I think so too.
How did we get here? Take me back to the beginnings. But before we do that, you're a kid in that third grade classroom. What dream was percolating in your head to become one day?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I don't think I knew for a long time. I have a ridiculous amount of degrees and student loans that I paid off, thank God, that I don't use, that I never used because I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up. But the thing that funded it all was operations, always. I started out in restaurants and I was a manager in restaurants, even really young at like 21. I think I had my first GM job. And I ended up working at chains in the operations sector to, make sure things were flowing and make sure things were working well. And I just kept trying to go back to school to do something else and trying to go do something else. And eventually I just realized, like, no, this is exactly where I belong. I don't know why I'm trying to go anywhere else. So the dreams that I had changed every year because I didn't want to do the thing that I thought was boring and not sexy. But it turns out, pretty good at it. So I should just stick to it.
But it's weird how life works. Sometimes what you really need to do is right in front of you the whole time,
Right.
right? But unfortunately, we have to rack up debt and time to figure out what the hell is going on.
Right. 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 Exactly.
So the cornerstone to you, would it be safe to say that you're an adrenaline junkie?
I think it would be safe to say that, yeah.
It seems like it to be in those high-powered positions. So how did you develop this acumen early on? Take me back to where you're born and raised. What were the foundational seeds very early on that made
Mm.
you such a go-getter and to become successful?
Sure. Believe it or not, Mechanicsville, Virginia is where it all started.
Okay.
I had two parents who were absolutely phenomenal. They best parents you and people say that all the time, but really best parents you could ever have. My dad used to do a thing with us every day, and it was, "What did you fail at today? You'll never be anything special if you don't fail and fall on your face and figure out how to stand up after. And so that was drilled in us. So number one, I have no fear of failure and no fear of making decisions. And so I think that drove a lot of why I'm good at what I do, because a lot of times visionary entrepreneurs really just want to hand you the decision portion and let it be your problem and your fault,
Yeah.
this or that, right? And then I just over time from just being in just a beautiful situation of being able just to be me because I'm low key crazy and having that celebrated, I think was very instrumental in how I got to where I'm at and why I'm able to do what I'm able to do. I don't work for one company. I own a company that works for many companies. And so to be a maintenance COO would bore me to death. I could never do that. I
Yeah.
love chaos. I love finding the puzzle and putting all the pieces together, getting it really, really beautifully working, and then leaving it to someone else to maintain and go and finding the next fire to put out. I really enjoy that.
We all have our role, and it seems like for you, do you really do you is your strong point coming in when everybody else is like, I don't know what to do? You're
Right,
the one that comes into the eye of the storm,
right.
and you're like, I got a compass, everybody, we're going in.
Exactly, exactly. When no one else wants to deal with the problem. I don't know how to do anything. I say it all the time. My team does all the work. I do not know how to do one thing. What I do know how to actually do is sit a bunch of people together and figure out what's the list that we need to create and where does our focus need to be to get to the other side of this.
Gotcha. So the one thing about business is it's a little bit like sports. We celebrate these teams that no one thinks is going to make it and they win the championship. And there's all these levels of that organization that people admire. When you look at the landscape of business, what company out there exemplifies from an operational and logistical and taking care of their employees, a complete standpoint of all of that? What is the one company you admire?
Um, n- Not going to be a popular answer, I don't think, but Tesla.
Okay.
I really like their no BS stance on their employees, but also their we're going to take really good care of you. If you're exemplary, we're going to, stand behind you. I absolutely love the innovation and the ability to they give their staff, their executives specifically, they give them the ability to fail or they give them the ability to succeed and it's all on them and how it goes. I mean, obviously the CEO gets credit for everything, but the their approach. It was always Apple when Steve Jobs was there. He left that kind of change.
Yeah.
But I think that Elon Musk and his executive team certainly read a bunch of books about how Steve Jobs ran Pixel and ran Apple and implemented in Tesla because it's so damn impressive. They do fire a lot of people and they get rid of a lot of people really early on. They're a fire fast, hire slow company for sure. But if you look at their developmental rate of their employees, who develops and who moves up the chain, it's unbelievable what they're capable of doing for people if they're open to learning.
Yeah. So, in your career specifically, who is that lightning rod, that inspiration, that hero? Who has that been for you?
Oh, wow. It's changed so many times over the years for sure. Like I looked up to the COO of Amazon for a long time, and then I kind of saw how they did their people, and that kind of changed over to the COO of Instagram and then the COO of Southwest Airlines. It's moved as I've moved. I have a big focus now on leadership, a huge focus on people development and really that being the crux of what I attempt to do because any business can grow if you grow your people. So Brene Brown's been my recent crush. There's a bunch of people, obviously, but Brene Brown's been my most recent crush over the past year, really looking at how she takes the company approach and puts it in the people's hand.
Yeah.
And all her time is spent on developing people rather than developing projects, developing products, and developing businesses. She develops people to develop those things on her behalf, and it multiplies massively. So I'd say Brene Brown right now.
So on our professional timelines of our lives, there's these flashpoints where things happen and change the trajectory of things. What was the moment early on in your life where you knew that your role is where you're at right now? That your ability to lead people, to be a GM at 21, to do all of these things, what was that twinkle in someone's eyes or that success that you had that made you solidified in where you're at right now, what you're doing?
That's kind of a two-part question,
Yeah,
if that's okay.
sure.
I'll answer the first one, which is, where it started from. And I think it was, at 19 years old, um, n- whether I was a waitress, because I was a waitress for a little while when I was 19, or whether I was in the military, I was in the military at 19 as well. I always took a leadership role, even if I was the lowest person on the totem pole. I always did. I actually got in trouble for it in the military. Often. I would make people believe I had more authority than I had, and I always have been that way. And I think that's a big catalyst to what led me here, is whether it was right or wrong, I was taking the front always. And then I think the pivotal moment was actually not that long ago. It was 5 years ago when I started Shockwave. I was working for a company, for a CEO who taught me a lot. He was what I was able to learn in my 3 years with him was far more than I should have learned in 10 years. He pushed really, really hard, and he was very, very knowledgeable, and he put me in front of the right people who were very, very knowledgeable, and I learned a ton. But he was also a little psychotic, as they all are. And I over time decided that I had to go do something else, and I needed to do something for me. And I had met my business partner Travis about 3, 4 years before that. We had been talking about doing something together for a while, and it was finally just like evident that I needed to go do this,
Yeah,
and I needed to do this for the long haul and not be trying. I was always looking for a job, not a career,
yeah.
because I didn't know where I belonged, and I definitely felt like this is where I belonged. I need to go help companies for a short period of time when they're in chaos and they're in trauma. They have a good product that they know how to sell, but they don't know how to make money off of it. And I do, because I'm a wartime executive, and so I can come in and during war create complete calm out of chaos and then hand it over to someone else to maintain.
So let's say you have a dream tonight. You run into that version of you right before you went in the military, and you could give that young version of you a piece of advice based on the life you've led, the wisdom you've gained along the way. What advice would you impart on that young version of you? And would that version of you listen?
No, I can tell you right now,
Right.
that version of me would not listen at all. And actually, I wouldn't give that version a piece of advice. I wouldn't say a thing.
Okay.
Go with it. Like, just go with it. Because I wouldn't want to avoid any of the big screw ups. I wouldn't want to avoid any of the pitfalls, any of the cake I had on my face, because it all led me right here to this moment. And could I be better? Sure. But if I would have avoided some of the awful, I probably wouldn't be here for all this great. And I have a lot of great. I have a great husband. I have a great business partner. I have a freaking phenomenally amazing team. I have great clients. We're able to say no to clients who aren't great. So I just make all the mistakes. Go ahead. It's fine.
Yeah. So when you were at that position, that young position of being in a leadership mode as a GM at 21, and in that period of your life, what was the best advice you've ever gotten?
Um, I think the best advice I ever gotten was actually when I was 23 years old. It was the owner of a restaurant. I was just coming onto. I had just gotten out of the military, and I was just coming back into the workforce. I may have been 24. Um, he he sat me down because I was very, very irritated every time someone did something wrong. Because I felt like it was a reflection of me, and you spent your hard-earned money in this place, and I really felt like it was a reflection of me. And he just sat down and he said, nobody ever learns unless you allow them to learn. And if you keep jumping in and saving the day, not only will this never grow and expand, but they'll never be able to do it because you keep jumping in and taking over. Let them fix their own shit.
Yeah, that is such
Yeah,
good
that was
advice. Yeah.
really is. Really is.
So what do you try to teach the younger people that you're around? That's the one thing that's good about being on the planet long enough, is that you accumulate all this wisdom and this knowledge. What do you try to impart on younger people, younger professionals?
Sure. I feel 12 on a good day, by the way. So, I need to be told to tie my shoes most days. So let's just start there.
Right.
But for my staff, just don't be afraid to make mistakes. You need to think things through. You need to be meticulous about planning. But if you make a mistake, it's okay, as long as it wasn't malicious or lazy that caused the mistake. If
Yeah.
there's anything malicious or lazy, that's a problem. But if you thought things through and you tried something and it didn't work, there's nothing that you can do that you can break that I can't fix. So just let's go break things.
Yeah. So everything that you've done and evolved into and become at this point, what are you the proudest of?
I'm sorry, what is
What are you ultimately the proudest of that you've accomplished in your life?
um I have that stupid answer I'm supposed to give, like my husband, my kids, but not really. I think it's the amount of people that I've been blessed to mentor and manage that have excelled in their careers, that have gone from entry level staff to directors and executives in the course of years. I would certainly say that's the thing I'm the most proud. I'm not easy to work for. I'm really hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. It's really hard every day. You have to show up every day and choose to do this every day.
Yeah.
But the people who choose to do this excel and move on. And like any EA that has been with me for longer than a year and a half, has become a COO.
So at the end of the day, everyone out there has a perception of you. Family, friends, clients, colleagues, everyone around you, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Are you a psychiatrist? These are some great
This is the
questions.
therapy question.
Who am I? I the funny thing is I'm not anything. I'm a conductor.
Yeah.
I'm just a conductor. I just move things. I move people and projects into the place that it should have been when it was almost there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you like the best about living in Austin, Texas?
I live here because my husband forces me to. I would be on an island somewhere.
Okay.
But my favorite thing about Austin, Texas is certainly the hiking. The hiking is absolutely phenomenal here.
Okay. I had no idea. So let me ask you this. We get off the call, time machine pulls up in front of your house. You can go anywhere in the history of time and see one event with your own eyes unfold. Where are you going?
Damn, I'm a history person too. Like I really, really, really love history. Where am I
With,
going?
with that in mind, you can hop to a couple places.
Okay, perfect. Perfect. The first place I want to go to is Jerusalem, um, during the time that Jesus was flipping over temples, because I think that'd be dope to see. I'm
Yeah.
Jewish, so I don't necessarily believe in that whole thing, but I do believe that happened. I think that'd be cool to see.
Yeah.
The second place I'd like to go is Cleopatra era Egypt.
Wow. Yeah.
Last place, I'll just do three. Last place I would like to go, this is gonna be weird, but are you familiar with Orchard House
Yeah. Uh-huh.
in Massachusetts?
Uh-huh.
I don't know why I would love to go sit with those three sisters
Yeah.
and just understand, how did you go from a society where women aren't allowed to be creative, aren't allowed to write, aren't allowed to be artists, and you have three sisters, two of them became famous artists, famous
Yep.
writer. First, the J.K. Rowlings of the world lived in that house, of that time lived in that house. I just like to know what inspired her to do that when the whole world was against women doing stuff like that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I would love to have seen when Mandela actually got out and realized that what he
That's a
did,
great one.
you
That's a
know,
great one.
like the minute he realized the apartheid was over with
Yep.
and what he had sacrificed 27, 28 years in a cell
Right.
to do became,
That's a great one. That's a
yeah,
great one.
that just to see the look in his
I
eyes.
was super selfish. I went for war and like when women switched but no, that's a really good one.
There's too much though. It's like the
Yeah,
beginning of the
when
Big Bang Theory. It's like all of
right.
this is flying at your
The Berlin Wall came down. Would have loved to
right.
see that. There's just so many things I would have loved to seen.
Yeah, just to see like the look on everybody's face, like, why is David Hasselhoff singing on this wall right now? Because he was the guy. It's like
Right.
of everybody.
Right,
But
right.
Germans loved him. They really embraced him. I still don't know how that happened, but they did.
He saw them. They had
Yeah.
such a stigma after the war,
Yeah.
and they were also quite horrifically treated,
Yeah.
and the whole world hated them for what, and he
Yeah.
saw them.
Yeah.
That's why. That's
That's
why.
it.
It's
Yeah.
really easy. Just see people.
That's it. Yeah. What is that whole quote? It's not the thing about people is the way they make you feel when you leave the room. That's really kind of the essence of it, you know? Um, so
Absolutely.
speaking of, if anyone wants to reach out, learn more about what you're doing, dive into your world more, where do they go?
Sure. Shockwave Solutions LLC.com. They can find me on social media. I'm a Rainville Wizard of Ops. Yeah, I'm all over the place.
Okay,
Easy to
I love
find,
it.
easy to
Excellent.
track down.
Cool. Emma, thank you so much for your time. Thank you for your
Thank
passion.
you. Thank
And
you.
and have a wonderful holiday season and a great 2025.
You too. Great questions.
Thank you. This has been
Yeah.
fun. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank
Cheers.
you.
Take care.
Bye.